While not all mistakes can be fixed, these ones can.
In my world, I'm known as Chiron.
Welcome to MsMojo, and today we'll be counting down our picks for the top 10 movies based on books that need a do-over. Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. For this list, we're looking at book-to-movie adaptations that deserve to be remade because the initial offering was disappointing to fans and critics alike. Entries aren't eligible if they appear on our other list, top 10 books that should never have been turned into movies, like The Dark Tower.
You understand that, don't you?
Or if there are already plans for a project to be remade. Number 10, The Scarlett Letter.
Gotcha.
While there have been successful loose retellings of this story, like Easy A, it would be nice if Hollywood could get it together and make a decent straight adaptation of the source material, set in 17th century Puritan Massachusetts Bay Colony.
Are you sure God's not punishing me?
To be sure, he's punishing you, woman. He'll be giving you a child.
The 1995 version with Demi Moore attempts to tell that story but fails, due to being overly concerned showing off more sexier version of Hester Prynne. The movie even managed to take home the Razzie for Worst Remake or Sequel. Nathaniel Hawthorne's book has a lot more to say about gender and society than the film does, and we could totally see it working as a limited series in the age of peak TV.
I wonder if existence as a woman is worthwhile at all. Even for the happiest of women.
Number 9, The Time Traveler's Wife.
Henry, it's you.
Too many times in book-to-movie adaptations, important characters and plots are left out for the sake of a more streamlined story.
So, is it yes, then, to dinner?
Okay.
That can make sense when you're dealing with a particularly long novel or a multi-book series, but it didn't make much sense in the case of The Time Traveler's Wife. In an effort to simplify the story, fans of the book were left wanting when many major characters and events never appeared in the big screen version.
You've never kissed me before.
The movie didn't feel nearly as deep or emotionally rewarding as the book did, but there's a good story there that deserves a better on-screen depiction. Number 8, Ender's Game.
We won! That's all that matters.
No. The way we win matters.
Sometimes it takes a while for the film industry to get the technology to depict a fantasy or sci-fi world properly. But by 2013, we had everything we needed to create a convincing version of the world Orson Scott Card created in Ender's Game.
Look to your left. Look to your right. These are not your friends. They are competition.
At its core, this is a character-driven story about a boy coming of age at a military academy where he's meant to train for an alien invasion. It is a compelling plot, but the movie felt like it was missing that emotional center, and the storytelling felt hollow. It's a problem that could be easily fixed with a better script and more attention to the characters rather than the visual effects.
We're one unit now.
We're not equipped to handle the heat of passage through an atmosphere.
Our drones are our heat shield. Keep falling, let gravity do the work.
Number 7, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Draw your pistol!
I walk a different path.
Alan Moore is no stranger to having Hollywood mess up his work. See From Hell. But this one put him over the edge, due to the movie's vast departure from the source material.
What are you?
I'm complicated.
You can't really blame the guy. The 2003 adaptation of The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is pretty bad. The movie is messy and overly convoluted, with more emphasis placed on action than a coherent story. In recent years, there has been interest in either a reboot of the film or a television show, but nothing is official yet. Either way, you can only go up from the 2003 version.
I hoped I'd get to nail you one more time. I didn't think it'd be literally.
Number 6, Queen of the Damned.
That was quite the performance. You should be more careful.
The Vampire Chronicles by Anne Rice centers on the vampire Lestat de Liancourt, and gave us the successful 1994 film Interview with the Vampire. It seemed like an adaptation of the third novel, The Queen of the Damned, would be just as good, but the results were far from it.
Vampires don't settle old scores. We harbor them.
Instead of giving us a proper adaptation of the much-loved book, it muddled the story's plot with elements from the novel preceding it. They also miscast the whole thing to make it more appealing to younger audiences. The movie was savaged by critics and lost the approval of the author, who later said that the whole series was better suited to TV.
Drinking my blood allows you to live in the light. And soon the sun will no longer sting your eyes.
Number 5. The Hobbit franchise.
100 years is a mere blink in the life of an elf. I'm patient. I can wait.
With this one, it wasn't the quality of the filmmaking or the visual effects that left a lot to be desired, but rather the decision to stretch a short novel into 3 increasingly tedious films.
I have never used a sword in my life.
And I hope you never have to.
The Hobbit is a lighter, more kid-friendly romp than the Lord of the Rings books, so it was baffling that Warner Brothers, and by extension Peter Jackson, adapted it to be the same length as the previous trilogy. Even with the material added from Tolkien's appendices, there wasn't enough material to justify 3 full-length movies, and the end result felt like more of a money grab than an appreciation of the author's work. Number 4. Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief.
I always win.
I always lose. Maybe we're both wrong.
Rick Riordan's fantasy series had every reason to be successfully adapted, with pretty much everything in its favor. In a different world, Percy Jackson could have been like the Harry Potter films, with the audience growing up with the characters. But for some reason, the film version aged the protagonists while completely leaving some out.
The water will give you power.
And instead of streamlining the source material, The Lightning Thief made changes that made the story more confusing.
1 down, 2 to go.
They also didn't do a good job getting viewers invested in the characters, which are the absolute backbone of Riordan's world and central to developing a YA film franchise. Number 3. iRobot.
I think it would be better not to die. Don't you, Doctor?
We're not saying that it wouldn't be tricky to properly adapt the stories of Isaac Asimov's iRobot into a movie, but another attempt would inevitably be better than the 2004 version starring Will Smith.
There's no way my luck is that bad.
The movie certainly looked good, and Will Smith put a good effort into his performance, but it also stripped down many of Asimov's more interesting ideas to create an uninspired action film. It doesn't really resemble the author's work, which makes perfect sense when you learn that the original script had nothing to do with Asimov's series. Next time, let's start with the actual source material and go from there.
Why don't you guys just hand the world over on a silver platter?
Maybe we did.
Number 2. Eragon.
Did someone mention flying? Are you ready to try again, Dragon Rider?
You'd think it would be simple to capture the magic of an adventure story featuring dragons on screen. But somehow the 2006 film version of Eragon felt utterly lifeless and boring, despite looking good.
Better to ask forgiveness than permission.
Critics loathed the movie, calling it everything from generic to without much texture or depth. Ouch. While the film performed pretty well and made almost $250 million worldwide, it didn't do enough to make audiences want the rest of the series to be adapted.
Without fear, there cannot be courage. But when we are together, it is our enemies who should be afraid.
The source material is a great hero's journey story with an interesting world, and we bet it would be a success if Hollywood gave it another shot.
Come! Taste the blood of your dragon! Let's finish this!
Before we unveil our number 1 pick, here are a few honorable mentions.
I'm gonna love you for the rest of my life.
So, Andrew, could you come up?
Number 1. The Giver. Like other YA books on our list, Hollywood made the characters older than they were in the novel, and added a superfluous romance.
Memories are not just about the past. They determine our future. You can change things. You can make things better.
It took an otherwise simple, emotional, and beloved story and made it like everything else out there, which was a shame.
You have the courage. Let me give you the strength.
Part of the failure of the movie could be that the teenage dystopian trend was on its way out by the time it was released, with movies like The Hunger Games and Divergent already oversaturating the market. Since it was only released in 2014, we need a few more years to forget this movie. But after that, We definitely want to see another attempt.
When people have the freedom to choose, they choose wrong every single time.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out these other great clips from MsMojo and subscribe for new videos every day.